This is a presentation by ClearKit for Ability First. Disability works for business. Over 11 million people in the UK register a disability to receive some form of support.
There are 11 million disabled people, and we all know that there is a shrinking pool of talent out there, and if we exclude all of these people from work, then we really are making life very, very difficult for ourselves.
1 in 5 candidates is disabled.
People who are disabled bring with them all sorts of qualities, life experiences, background, perspectives you probably wouldn't have in an organisation if you weren't a diverse organisation.
Disabled people's annual disposable spending, circa £100 billion.
I think people now recognise that in terms of their employer brand and in terms of creating leaders that can manage through complexity, to have a diversity of thought within your business is a competitive advantage.
So what's getting in the way? Over 74% of disabled candidates say they will not declare their disability at recruitment stage for fear of discrimination.
Lack of confidence and fear are the key barriers in this area.
36% said the reason for that fear was based on previous experience of discrimination.
The biggest flaw is the assumption people make around disability, whether it's a sensory impairment or a physical impairment.
71% of disabled candidates said negative assumptions about their ability was the biggest barrier they faced in recruitment.
I think a lot of us will say as employers, oh yes, we really support diversity, we're really keen to have more disabled staff, this is very important for us, without thinking about, and therefore what do we need to do different to make that actually happen.
The costs of getting it wrong. The average cost for an employer to defend themselves at tribunal is £8,500. The average costs awarded by tribunals in disability discrimination cases is £14,137.
The beauty of the ClearKit is they are trying to find you a way in which you can actually be proactive and prevent problems and anticipate problems and to deal with those early on, so that it doesn't ever get to a situation where people are bringing claims against an employer.
Let's start removing barriers.
This is my thoughts for you to mull on, and we have a LinkedIn group and stuff, so please do share your thoughts. In the sporting journeys that we've all heard about and listened to over the last week, it's all about somebody having a dream and themselves and their infrastructure rallying around to make that dream come to fruition. When it comes to employment, we work with lots of different employers, and for understandable reasons around confidence, which we'll talk about in a moment, the starting point seems to be about what's going to get in the way and how this disability is going to cause us more work in order to engage with that employee. And I think one thing that I'd like to take from today is, if we start the journey of talking to people who might be a little bit different from us or present in a different way, but that's talent and I want to make it work for me, as opposed to, gosh, right, what do I need to think about, I think we probably come to a different end point quite quickly. So that's just my thought on the Paralympics. So we've talked about the case, and having the business leader talking about the case of change gives that enormous credibility, so thank you very much for that at the beginning of the presentation. But there's some myths here around the benefits of getting it right. BT actually monitor the longevity of tenure, i.e. how long people stay in post, of their disabled employees versus their non-disabled colleagues. And they stay, on average, I think it's something like 67% of their disabled colleagues stay over a year, as opposed to 46% who stay less than a year. Now, I took that into E.ON and worked with the E.ON finance director, looked at their labour turnover figures, and we worked out that was costing E.ON about £6.2 million a year if they could just increase that longevity of tenure. So let's stop thinking cost and start thinking benefit and productivity. The facts are disabled people take less time off sick, are more productive in work, are obviously they're committed and they're talented people, and we've seen that showcased in the sporting arena. So how do we make that happen then in terms of employment? Well, one of the things that we did is that we listened. Okay? What happens in employment agendas is that you get lots of stuff thrown at you, particularly if you're a small business, where you think, oh, how does that apply to me? So the DWP commissioned a big piece of research, and we talked to the employers. And we did a huge piece of research, which I'm very happy to share with anybody who's got lots of time to read it, which I'm sure you haven't. But the number one thing that came out was fear. fear was getting in the way. Employers were frightened of disability, frightened of the law, frightened of getting it wrong, frightened of embarrassing themselves as an individual, and God forbid, frightened of taking on a disabled person and not being able to get rid of them if they weren't any good. And that's all the stuff that came out. That's the sort of thing that employers were saying to us. So once we've got that on the table, we can start to rebuild. So I'd just be really interested in whether that resonates with people in the room. Just, you know, does disability feel a bit scary? Is that one of the things that you hear around in your employment circles and with colleagues and stuff? Or has the world changed in the past 12 months? Who feels that fear is something we need to work on here? Oh, that's good. I've not been wasting the past 5 years. That's very cool. Because that's one of the things that we work very hard to try and address. Sorry. I'm one of those different people, so I don't see it very well. So if I press the wrong button, we'll be off at a tangent. So instead of just doing the research and parking it on the shelf for you all to look at, we decided a solution was required, and a group of very influential employers came together with ourselves and developed a toolkit. And that toolkit had a project team of 50 employers, large, medium-sized, small, charity, public and private. And we've delivered for you a free resource, which means that now, if you're frightened and that's what's getting in the way, there's a toolkit that can help you. And all of the organisations, well certainly most of them that are around the room today, and some of the speakers, including Robin, you can access through that. And what we're trying to do is break it down to sizable chunks. So instead of it being, you know, writing a job description, it says things like, if you want somebody to travel nationally, why don't you ask that instead of asking for a clean driving licence? Okay? And I like that example because I lost my driving licence a year ago because I lost a lot of my vision a year ago. Now, I have an international role and it hasn't stopped me a bit. But there's lots of employers who miss out on me, and that's their loss, obviously. If they said they wanted a clean driving licence, because I haven't got one, although I do still use it for ID purposes. Can we move on?